Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so what did we discuss in our previous class? Chapter 10 we are at. Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. So we ended at verse 5 we did, right? 4 and 5. Huh? Halfway we are done. Okay, so let me read it again. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. So till where did we read?
We have to start from Ahimsa, non-violence. This is our word of prayer.
Okay, so who wants to read? Bhagavad, do you want to read?
The different qualities of living entities.
No, I meant it doesn't matter.
The different qualities of living entities, be they good or bad or
Where are you reading from? Samta, you have to read from Samatha. Samatha, you will have to read.
Now from Ahimsa.
Ahimsa.
Ahimsa was over last time.
No.
Please read from Ahimsa.
Ahimsa, non-violence, means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. Material activities that are promised by so many politicians, sociologists, philanthropists, etc. do not produce very good results because the politics and philanthropists have no transcendental mission. They do not know what is actually beneficial for human society. Ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization. So any movement or any commission which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called non-violence.
So what is the main point here? We'll go a bit fast today. Well, ideally I want to cover up to 15, 16. So we're going to be very fast. Concentrate and then let's go fast. So what's the main point here?
Take advantage of the human flesh. Take advantage of the human flesh.
Take advantage of human form. When did you come up with it?
So, the human body is meant for spiritual realization.
Well tried.
Spiritual well-being.
Was Bhagavad Gita on here? In the for release.
Interpreting from Bhagavad Gita.
I think you should quickly give it on this. This is how you are going to understand.
The word never said it to anyone. First time I said this thing to anyone.
Okay. So what is the main point here?
If we don't utilize our human form into spiritual realization, then actually that's balance. We are doing balance to our own body.
Okay. Still, what is that? Yeah, that's also a point, but what is the core point? That's what Bhagavad Prabhu also said. What's the core point?
So Ahimsa is in different type of.
Correct. Yeah. Which
It says it's not, Ahimsa means like it also comes involved with not confusing people, not misleading people, also comes to the category of Ahimsa.
Yeah.
Should not be a
So
killer of
they should
soul.
be tried proper ways that they will utilize their human body in spiritual life.
The Isopanisad verse which says not to be a killer of the soul. Like, somebody doesn't utilize the wrong platform, and the spiritual well-being has to be taken care of.
Yeah, but that is from the point of view of one's own self, it is said. Atmaha. That's what you are referring to.
Yeah.
Killer of the soul. But that is from one's own viewpoint. Ahimsa towards oneself. This is what again, same thing what Madhavan said. So from our own reference point, that is said. But here the main mood that is coming out is that which furthers the future spiritual happiness of people is called as ahimsa. Ahimsa simply doesn't mean not being offensive. Ahimsa actually, there's a different connotation which is given here. It says that which furthers the future spiritual happiness of people. That is non-violence. So non-violence doesn't only mean, Prabhu, I'm not offending anyone, I'm not offending anyone. Prabhupada is giving a slightly different angle. Okay, you're not offending anyone, but are you contributing to making other people happy in their spiritual life? That is how it's defined. So it's a very unique definition of ahimsa that we see here. That was the main point.
Preaching activities can be
Correct.
categorized into non-violent.
Correct. So yeah. So when we preach and when we offer devotee care and education, then that is an example of ahimsa in ISKCON. ISKCON has both these departments. Even in our temple, Anirudh Prabhu today had strategic planning meeting. Unfortunately, I could not attend, but two departments which he always has in the strategic planning is, one is teaching and education, and another is devotee care. So today also they might have discussed. I couldn't attend because I had a program, because of the Milpark program I couldn't attend today. But these two towers are there. There are so many other towers also which are there, like farm, crossways, but these are two specific towers, devotee care and training and education. So both contribute to ahimsa. So ahimsa should not be with body, should not be with words, and should not be with the mind. At three levels, thinking ill of somebody, okay, or doing corporal means of the body, physically hitting a devotee, or by words, then talking to a devotee in such a way that it offends the devotee. That is also himsa. And not doing all these things, refraining from this, is called as ahimsa. So, sadhana, seva and sadachara. So this talks about sadachara. Essentially, ahimsa is a major component of sadachara. Through our mind, body and words, we do not offend anyone. Not only that, but through our mind, body and words, we give spiritual happiness to the congregation. That is what Prabhupada is mentioning here as ahimsa. So it's one level above the conventional definition of non-violence. Okay, let's read further. Samara, you want to read?
Samatha, equanimity, refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not the best. This material world should be accepted without attachment or aversion. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. This is called samatha, equanimity. A person in Krishna consciousness has nothing to reject and nothing to accept, save in terms of its usefulness in the prosecution of Krishna consciousness.
Again, there is a very different terminology given for equanimity.
Tushti, satisfaction, means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods by unnecessary...
Sorry, 1 minute. We haven't discussed samatha. Anyone has any points on samatha?
Freedom from
Utility
attachment.
is the principle. Like Prabhupada says, the utility is the principle.
Freedom from attachment and aversion, right? Icha and dvesh.
Yeah. Because icha and dvesh binds us to this material world. We have strong likes and we have strong dislikes. And that's why that gives us happiness as well as distress in this material world. Therefore here there's a very different definition, if you like, of samatha or equanimity. So it's not as much as I like a mango and I don't like a banana. It's not in that sense. It says, as long as the mango and banana are offered to the Lord, just giving a simple day-to-day example in our lives, then I like it. But even the best of dishes, if not offered to the Lord, will not give any pleasure to a devotee, however tasty that might be, to a pure devotee. So everything has to be, everything that is in connection with the Lord is accepted, everything that is not in connection with the Lord is rejected. But within that, then there is no, a devotee doesn't care if it's a pure devotee. Because a pure devotee does not eat for sense gratification. So that's just a common example of how we can understand what Prabhupada is saying. Yeah, go ahead.
So, one point though. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada never used to have mangoes, since you're talking. Because when he was 5 or 7 years old, he once had one mango without offering to the Lord. And Bhaktivedanta used to chastise him. So whenever someone gives him mangoes, he used to say, no, I can't have mangoes, I'm an offender.
Yeah, it's a good example. So that is because that mango reminds him of a time that he offended the Lord in his own standards.
Austerity, there's austerity, tapasya.
Pardon?
He has done that because of tapasya, austerity.
It's not an austerity for a devotee. It's love. No, not whatever. It is love. There is a difference between love and austerity. When a mother is cooking for the child or looking after the child, though the activity is very tiring, it is love, not austerity. Austerity, in one sense, is a terminology which comes more under when things are done under rules and regulations. Then it is austerity. But when you do out of love, then there is no austerity. It's a pleasure. For example, if just a common example, if someone invites, let's say, if Neera Prabhu invites me to his house, and then he says, "Oh, my wife has been doing austerity since morning in the kitchen." Then I'll say that, no, why did she take all this trouble? So it's not required like that. Whereas, when Mataji is very enthusiastic to cook, to invite the devotees, then there is no austerity. Or if, let's say, Guru Maharaj is coming to your house, Paramakaran Maharaj is coming to your house, and then you were cooking the other day, samosa banare, right? There was austerity. Was there any austerity? It was pleasure. Maharaj is, you are serving your Guru Maharaj. So there was no austerity. That's why you went on and on and on. I know since morning you were very tired that day. But you went on and on. 1 week, I know what kind of schedule you had. But that's not, will you call it austerity? No, it's not austerity. Usme kuch tha hi nahi austerity. It was out of love. So this is love. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj rejecting that mango is not out of austerity. It is just out of his love for the Lord. Because he gets reminded of that incident all the time.
Tushti, satisfaction, means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods by unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord. That is called satisfaction. Tapas means austerity or penance. There are many rules and regulations in the Vedas
It's coming here only.
apply here.
Directly it's coming here. Yes.
Like rising early in the morning and taking a bath. Sometimes it is very troublesome to rise early in the morning, but whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance. Similarly, there are prescriptions for fasting on certain days of the month. One may not be inclined to practice such fasting, but because of his determination to make advancement in the science of Krishna consciousness, he should accept such bodily troubles when they are recommended. However, one should not fast unnecessarily or against Vedic injunctions. One should not fast for some political purpose that is described in Bhagavad Gita as fasting in ignorance. And anything done in ignorance or passion does not lead to spiritual advancement. Everything done in the mode of goodness does advance one. However, and fasting done in terms of Vedic injunctions enriches one in spiritual knowledge. As continue.
No. So what are the points here?
Very difficult to fast in Melbourne, Mahaprabhu.
How does fasting enrich in
The spiritual
knowledge? Craving for food.
Good question. Fasting can enrich our spiritual knowledge, or fasting can bring out the monster inside us. Both are possible. I have given this example. In Bhakti Vriksha, I tell this example many times. Earlier, I myself, I decided that I will do Nirjal on Janmashtami. And the whole house, इसे ना पूरा घर खड़ा कर दिया था, like that. So I was losing my temper after 12 o'clock. And then Yamuna Leela gave me an instruction like Bhaktivedanta Maharaj gave. Why don't you eat something and be happy? Okay. So therefore, if your body, if you can do it and you can be happy, like Damu Prabhu, he does Nirjal every Ekadashi. Okay. So if you can do it and be happy, and I have not seen him being grumpy on that day. He is happy doing that service. But if you ask me to do Nirjal on Ekadashi, I am definitely going to be grumpy. So better then I fast. Of course, for Ekadashi we do fast from beans and grains. Prabhupada did not say that every Nirjal, every Ekadashi we should do Nirjal. It was not like that. But if one can do it, then it is good. But again, Rupa Goswami has very clearly said, he said that Atyahara Prayasacha Prajalpo Niyamagraha. If you remember, if you see Srila Prabhupada's purports there in Nectar of Instruction, even in the next verse, what was that? Utsaha Nischaya Dhairya Tat Karma Pravartanat. So the Karma Pravartanat and the other one is linking that rules and regulations must not be followed just for the sake of following the rules and regulations. Prabhupada writes like that in the purport. So therefore, as long as that fasting leads us, brings us closer to loving sentiments for Krishna, then that fasting has yielded its desired result. If on the other hand, because of that fasting, there is whole day Vaishnava aparad is there, we are yelling, grumpy, then there is no point, because the Lord does not want, he is not a nirashavadi. What is it called as? Sadist. He is not a sadist person. Okay, thou shall fast and I shall see how thou shall fast. Then thou shall take you to my kingdom. No, it's not like that. He doesn't want us to fast and suffer in this world. Right? We do it out of love. The essence of fasting is that the act, because ours is a kitchen religion, there are so many, then there is so much time that goes in preparing food for our tongue, right? And then eating. When we eat, then obviously all that takes up time. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to cut off all that and do something for Krishna. So even if we are fasting, sometimes we cook, but then we don't do anything more than that. Beyond cooking and offering, we don't do anything more than that. The extra time we use for chanting extra rounds or reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
So Meghalaya
taking some other services. Pardon?
Cut off the time, cooking time.
And eat in Gauranga.
Eat in Gauranga. Yeah. We can do that. That we can do every day. Okay. So the essence of na utpadaya dedi ratim shramayevi kevala. Any austerity which is done, which does not produce rati, any activity which does not produce rati or love of God is useless waste of time. Of course, in the initial stages, we still try to follow by force. But later on, I am not realized to talk on this subject matter, frankly, but I am just repeating what I have heard from the saintly personalities, is that later on there is no austerity. It just becomes, out of love you start just doing for them.
I'm just trying to understand that, okay, cooking preparation, that may be applicable to Mataji. But then, how, religious side, they are spiritually enriched by fasting.
By fasting you are spiritually enriched only if that fasting enables you to think of Lord Krishna. If it does not enable you, then it will not.
If you do Nirjala, if anybody does Nirjala, next morning it will be hard talk to 3 o'clock. But then you start enjoying. The next day, you can talk to your stomach.
You can talk to
your stomach. He will talk to you. And your stomach, you see so nice. These are very good. I have done many times.
See, in general, because Ekadashi we practice once in 15 days, we will get into the habit of controlling our senses. In that sense, it is useful for spiritual life. One day Ekadashi, when we do, then at least on that day, we are a bit more controlled than what
Second
we are on
day,
the other
even
days.
you don't want to eat all day. If you after 12 o'clock, you don't want to eat at all.
He doesn't agree with you.
If you have
He's waiting for the day too.
And after that, next day, 12 o'clock, you don't want to eat.
But Ekadashi only more elaborate preparations are happening.
Pardon?
For Ekadashi only more elaborately it's happening.
Elaborate preparations are happening because the Lord is not doing Ekadashi. So it is up to us what we want to take and what we want to, you can distribute, no? Inshallah. On a practical ground, we all know what we want to do. Okay. So Ekadashi means more time for hearing, reading and chanting. Vedas Priya Maharaj, I think he gave 25 rounds on Jadabharat Prabhu. You are also doing 25 rounds on Ekadashi. There you go. So the eating time, use it for chanting.
So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada gives a purport about the fasting. He says the fasting is, in Sanskrit it says upavas. So we talk about just fasting. So upavas means we can do any other activities. We have to leave upavas next to the Lord and the scriptures. So we spend time more in either chanting or reading scriptures. So than wasting time. So in that way it is ended spiritually. So the other activities what we do is not all just
Austerity in itself will not lead one to the Supreme. Even the Mayavadis say this, the devotees also say this. Mayavad philosophy also says that simply by austerity you cannot attain the Supreme. When I say Mayavad, I am talking about people who want to attain the impersonal absolute. So even in those books you will find that they are talking about love to be generated. Of course that philosophy is not bona fide, but even in that philosophy it is said that by austerity only you cannot attain anything. There has to be love. Even in Bhagavatam it is mentioned. Bhagavad Prabhu knows that verse. Apuguna etat tapasa nayati. Yeah, so we studied that verse together. Na chandasa naiva jala agni surya. Then Vida Mahat Pada Rajobhishekam. That verse.
Only shaking his head.
He's checking if he knows.
He is like the actor, the playback singer will be singing. Okay, so it is said that even if you sit in around fire, if you go to Kumbh Mela or some of these places, you will find that people, the yogis are sitting around fire under the hot summer sun, or some people are, in the winter they are going and staying inside icy waters like that for a long time. So even if we do all that, we will not get love of Godhead just because we did that activity. So austerity in itself will not be enough to take us back to Godhead.
You can learn to do Bhukha Hartal if you observe proper Ekadasi.
Pardon?
Bhukha Hartal karte na. So you learn to do good Ekadasi, that can you do for 3-4 days.
Yeah, but Bhuk Hartal, Prabhupada says, if austerity is done for some political purposes, it is written somewhere, Prabhupada says it. But it will not beget anything. Somewhere is mentioned, no?
Yeah.
Prabhupada writing it.
One should not fast for some political purpose.
Correct.
The Telangana fasting that
As far as charity is also given now. So we will. It's too big a paragraph. So I just talked on charity today in the Milpark program. We talked all about charity, the different aspects of charity. So very briefly I'll mention here because we don't have that much time. There we did a very detailed session. So charity should be done in the mode of goodness. Ideally, charity should be done beyond the three modes of material nature. Charity in the mode of goodness, it is mentioned, is one which is done out of duty. Duty comes from Varnashrama Dharma. So, following the tenets of Varnashrama Dharma, in deference with whatever is written there, if we do charity, then that charity is in the mode of goodness. Charity in the mode of goodness is one which is done out of duty and where there is no expectation of anything in return. So, Prabhupada writes that what is the biggest charity? In Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada writes, the biggest charity is giving Krishna Consciousness to the world. So we had a pretty lengthy discussion there. So even if we have to donate somewhere, the only question we have to, there are two parties involved in charity. One is the person who gives and one is the person who receives. Okay. The person who is giving the charity has to be in the right frame of mind for that charity to beget spiritual results. The person who is giving charity has to be in the right frame of mind, has to have the right goals out of that charity to be able to attain spiritual results. The recipient of that charity must also benefit spiritually by that charity. Then that charity becomes transcendent. Otherwise it comes under karma. Some karma will be there. Good karma, bad karma will be there. So the giver and the receiver. So one has to, every time we have to do some charity, the question should be asked, why am I doing it? Is it for a spiritual cause? If the answer is no, then no spiritual benefits will be there out of that charity. Is it purely out of love of God that I am doing it? Or as a service to my spiritual master, if I am doing a charity? Then yes, otherwise no. And the giver of the charity, is he benefiting spiritually? That question has to be asked. If the answer is no, then that charity has got no meaning. It will give some pious credits at best, but not spiritual credits. There will be no Bhakti Unmukhi Shukriti coming out of that. And we concluded, I am just cutting a very long session short, we concluded by saying that if in doubt, validate your own motives with a senior devotee. Ideally, check with Srila Prabhupada's books, check with spiritual master. If both of them, if Srila Prabhupada's books is not there at that point in time, or we are not able to understand, or if spiritual master is not available, check with the local senior devotees or counselors, then they will advise. So charity should not be done blindly. Because, in one sense, whose money is it? It is not our money. We are dealing with it. Just like Prabhudas Prabhu is the treasurer of the temple. Okay. So he knows that he is dealing with Krishna's money. So he has to really apportion the money in places where it will yield the highest spiritual returns for Prabhupada's movement. Right? So with our own money, then we have to think like that it is Krishna's money. And then all our answers will be very clear. If we have this methodology in mind, this framework in mind for our decision making, then it is very easy to understand where to give charity and where not to give charity.
But did you discuss this point in your class regarding sometimes devotees also put in a situation of giving charity or assistance, to family members and also maybe relatives, for education, kids' education, weddings and all that stuff. Education is not really spirituality, but it might lead to it. So where do we draw the line?
Yeah, so charity done out of duty is in the mode of goodness.
It might not be out of duty, it might be more out of compassion.
Compassion for the body or the soul?
With the hope that we also know on the other extreme, that extreme poverty is difficult for devotional service. So
correct.
For the school kid, who is in secondary school or tertiary education, might not be he might not take it up his spirituality there and then, but eventually he might because of your compassion to him.
Correct. This is what we discussed. You asked your question. He asked the same question. It was a very good question, and that question we discussed for the next 1 hour, I think. This is one question. So he asked the same question. Should we donate to? What was the question? Sorry. To
Education of
poor children. Education of the poor children. Okay. Again, apply the same framework. What is the first question you will ask? What is my motive in donating this? First question that. Why do I want to do it? Okay, that answer will be clear. Second is, if I donate this money, am I ensuring that it is going for the spiritual welfare of the children? Ask that question. If it's only for material welfare, na utpadye yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. It may sound radical from the moral point of view, but mundane morality is called mundane morality because it is mundane. It is not transcendental. Okay. So therefore, in fact, we also concluded that discussion. If we really want to donate like that, why not start Hare Krishna Child Care Center? Adopt children, teach them Brahmacharya right from childhood, teach them Krishna Consciousness right from childhood, enable them to become future Brahmanas in society. Right? You can still teach them physics, chemistry, maths. It doesn't mean that, just like we do to our children. As much as you will do for Krishnit, right? You will give him material education, which means you will send him to a good school for material education, but at the same time you will also give enough spiritual education, knowing very well that the spiritual education ultimately is what is more important. So same way you do it for other children also. But if you simply give that money to somebody who doesn't know how to spend it and who is not spiritually realized, then that person will not get you that outcome the way he deals with that one. Does it make sense? He will not get that outcome because he himself is not a devotee. So keep the control with you there. That's the framework. Is it clear?
I think sometimes the line can be black and I'll stop you offline. I don't think it's black and white. Because what could be material at the moment, like although we are giving for the education which may be material in nature.
I am not talking about emergencies. For example, if a non-devotee relative in the family has met with an accident and he is in the hospital, then you don't go and say that no, it will only help the body and all that. Obviously that's there we help. But I am talking about something where you can afford to, we have more time to exercise our discrimination. Then where you have a option to apply spiritual framework for your decision making. In an emergency situation, of course, you can't do that way, right? Of course, there are many other ways you can do it also. Even if you want to fund the children, poor children, then you could probably buy books for them and stock books in their library. You don't have to give cash to the owner of the Anatha ashram, knowing very well he is not a devotee. Does it make sense? And that's where we came back to that verse. Yasyasti bhaktir Bhagavad akinchana sarvair gunay tatra samatasya sura haro abhakta kuto mahaguna manorathena sati davato vahi. Because we have to understand at the end of the day that even if a person is a good person but not a devotee, it is not long before he falls into the mode of passion and ignorance because he is not a devotee. We know that principle already. To continuously be in the mode of goodness without spirituality is not possible, practical in Kali Yuga. It's not at all possible. Whereas by becoming a devotee, then one automatically is in the mode of, can come to the mode of goodness by practicing sincere devotional life.
What I think we do very quick.
Pardon?
They are not teaching, but we have to sort of we do donate there because they have a lot of What about that?
Yoga Peeth in Mayapur. Yeah, you can give. If it's a spiritual institution, which institution? Is it Bhaktivedanta Saraswati's Gaudiya Mata?
Yeah.
If a Gaudiya Mata is a bona fide institution, you can give. No problem. Any institution where you know that they will deal with your money in the best interest of Krishna consciousness. But obviously we consult our spiritual masters, because our spiritual masters know many things in the holy dham that we do not know, because especially your spiritual master, he has spent time in Vrindavan, he has been since 1978, so then he may know certain things deeply, much more than what we will know. We may go externally and take some decisions, but he will know exactly what's happening there, the local dynamics. So one can consult one's spiritual master and take decision.
We are giving gift cards and other things to people. They also come under charity. We are giving gift cards for certain birthdays and stuff.
So devotees or
Devotees and non-devotees.
Huh?
Devotees and non-devotees.
Who is giving gift card? We give gift card. Okay, so question, what is the framework you will apply? What is the first question? Why are you doing that charity? For their body or for their soul?
For the birthday or marriages we are giving now. So are they also come under charity?
You tell me now.
How to avoid?
So if there is a marriage,
We have to give.
so what kind of gift can you give to someone who is getting married?
Extra picture.
What's the point in giving a fish tank or something? Or something where lights are coming out.
Sometimes you don't have time to buy anything.
That is different issue.
So that's what we do. But they
That is
have to buy.
different issue. See, I'll tell you what. It's very simple. Suppose that day you gave us a gift. Okay. Now that was not a Krishna picture. Okay.
But I put Krishna picture also.
You put Krishna picture also, but even if you would not have put a Krishna picture, that gift becomes spiritual. Why? Because our relationship is on the platform of spirituality. Tadati pratigrihnati guhyam akhyati prachati. Tadati pratigrihnati means what? Rupa Goswami said accept and give. So out of love, if something is given, it may not be exactly something directly Krishna's picture or something like that. For example, last yatra, Mataji gave us Natio liquid soap. I liked it very much. We used it for the entire yatra. So definitely it was helpful to us in the holy dham. Like that. And even if you give something which adorns the house, which we can keep on the altar or somewhere like that, the relationship is based on spiritual, not material. When when activities are done under the banner of spirituality, then everything is spiritual. And there is no material.
Can we give money or gift cards to the devotees and not
Definitely.
not to non-devotees?
You can give, provided then your goal is to bring them into Krishna consciousness.
They may come or may not come.
That is anyway not in our hands. No? Your goal, that's why I only said the motive of the giver, not the results that the giver will be able to control. Results are never in our hands anyway. What is your motive in doing it?
The only way out of this is if our temple shop starts gift cards, then we'll all be saved.
Only buy things in temple. Good idea.
But you see, that's why we don't go and buy bhujia from the local shop or some what is that Haldiram ka halwa, and then we go to people's house and give. We don't do that because then that is cooked by somebody. We don't give that as a gift to someone. In Diwali, usually I remember people come with that big thing. Lot of sweets are halwa, puri, everything is packed nicely. And then we take to each. Nandini sweets or gasitaram, halwa, whatever. So we don't take all that. We don't give people all that. We even when we give gifts, we cook at home and then we take and give the person. Because when they taste that, then what happens? When they taste prasadam, there is a spiritual benefit they are getting. So somewhere they have to get spiritual benefit out of our gift. Now, your intent also must be to benefit them spiritually. And it's better that whatever you give them has got a greater chance of benefiting them spiritually.
But Prabhu, to answer Mataji's question, if you give gift card to devotee, it's pretty sure you know that they will use it in gift shop or somewhere. If you give it to non-devotee, they will go to Cole's liquor land. Correct. So and then you are into that cycle of...
Correct. What if they eat beef with that? Anyone who funds beef is also a killer. It is said in Srimad Bhagavad. No, seriously. Not Prabhu, say Vyasadev, because he wrote that.
What can we give them, Prabhu?
Huh?
What can we give them?
Give them Prabhupada books, no? I tell you, when my mother had her Shashtiyapta Purti, she asked me what gifts to give to people. They had her 60th, my father's 60th birthday celebrations. You know what to give? So not 60th, 70th birthday or my mother's 60th birthday, one of these things. So what to give? So Premnidhi Prabhu made so many SSR CDs. He personally sat overnight and prepared beautiful covers for all the SSR CDs, and there was a machine which was just churning out the CDs, burning the CDs, and such a big thing he gave to my mother and said, "This is my gift to you on your 60th birthday." So she took it and gave it to all my relatives. So everyone, now whether the relatives will hear SSR or whether they will put it in the dustbin, we don't know, right? But our intent of giving that was to bring them closer to Krishna. And also she distributed Prabhupada's books. She gave away as a gift, because people do for you, then you do what is called as Badil Maryada, we call it. So you give Prabhupada's books to them. That way there's nothing wrong. See, at the end of the day, people are also going to accept anything that we give out of love, right? People will see our love when we give a gift. Mainly that is what people will see. Of course, there are few people.
Not all of them, Prabhu.
Oh, why don't you mute it?
They don't see our love. They see what we packed inside the thing.
If the people are going to see what you have packed inside the thing and not love, then you have to decide. Either you have to give them Krishna consciousness, by which they will be detached from seeing what is the material value of the packet, or then asat sang tyag. If they are going to be like that, then you don't deal with such people, because then you will never be able to please them anyway. We do not give charity to get acceptance within our peer groups and our social groups. We don't do that, because then that's a different agenda to Krishna consciousness. To be popular. I know, even sometimes I have seen people within the family, one person, he is usually very well respected in the family because he is the most benevolent person. He will give cash to all the family members. He will buy opulent gifts whenever he goes and visits, like that. But then in return, we know that person develops that sense of pride, and everyone is saying that, oh, this person, whenever he comes, he buys a lot of toys for my children and from here. So the receiver is also enjoying sense gratification. The person who is giving also is enjoying it gives a lot of satisfaction to his false ego. That, see, I am getting that respect within my social groups or within my relatives. I am the most charitable person in my family. I am the most large-hearted person in my family. Whenever I go, then I bring things. But it is useless if it doesn't produce rati. If Krishna is not the basis, then it's useless. Okay. So we'll go further, otherwise we get stuck here. So many verses we want to cover today.
We are reading the 14th chapter on the first ideal family life.
Okay, the children need to be a bit silent. Haribol, can you just...
Where Prabhupada writes, dealings with the family members, he's talking about Grihastha. So dealing with the family members or friends should be performed simply to fulfill their purpose. One minute.
Huh?
Can you tell them directly with your
You need to be silent. Yeah, sorry.
So Prabhupada writes that one should not be extravagantly engaged in that way. Instruction from the family members and society should be accepted superficially, but in the essence, The Grihastha should be engaged in occupational duties advised by the spiritual master and Shastra. So we should not whimsically do. I remember when we went to Sudhimur Prabhu's and Jyoti Mother's, it was a very awkward marriage. So Jyoti Mother's father is a very nice devotee. So we had all kinds of people, royal people, from materialistic, where they can. So he sponsored 1 lakh Bhagavad Gita. So we teach for everyone.
1 lakh Bhagavad Gita.
That was Prabhupada's marathon time, so December. So whether or not an opulent person, an ordinary person, or devotee, everyone gets Bhagavad Gita.
Beautiful. So see, here you have an example. Very nice example. Okay. So in verses 4 to 5, in fact we will read also 6 and 7. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages and the Manus come from me, born from my mind, and all the living entities populating the various planets descend from them. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. So, what is the essence of the verses 4 to 7? You can read the purports offline. I'm sure that you have read and come, but still, for those who have not read, then please read it offline. So Lord Krishna, the essence of this 4 to 7 is that Lord Krishna is the source of all qualities, good or bad. He is the source of all qualities. Qualities which are born of the mode of goodness are helpful in knowing Lord Krishna. Qualities born of the mode of goodness. And these qualities are awarded to the devotee by the Lord himself. As a result of sadhana, these qualities are awarded to a devotee. If one improves one's quality of chanting, then one will invariably find that one's qualities have improved. Now, while that is talking about spiritual qualities, when you strictly talk about qualities in the mode of goodness, not in the transcendental mode of goodness, purely talking about the mode of goodness, Gurujan Prabhu writes that these qualities, which are even awarded within the mode of material nature, especially mode of goodness, though they are awarded by the Lord, yet they cannot reveal Lord Krishna. Just by being in mode of goodness, we cannot understand Lord Krishna. Simply by following Varnashrama Dharma in the mode of goodness, still we cannot understand Lord Krishna. Gurujan Prabhu further writes that we cannot understand Lord Krishna by our own intelligence, because our intelligence is also born of the 3 modes of material nature. So even though the great sages and the demigods originate from Lord Krishna himself, even these people cannot understand Lord Krishna, who is beyond the 3 modes of material nature. So in Samambona, simply by being in mode of goodness, we cannot understand Lord Krishna, because he is talking about his opulence in these chapters. As a part of that, he is saying that just by developing qualities within the mode of material nature, you will not understand me or my opulence. It is mentioned that even these exalted personalities need to understand Lord Krishna only by the process of hearing. So Prabhupada is eventually coming to that point. Just by development, just by being in the mode of goodness, one cannot understand the Lord. One can only understand the Lord through the ears. Only by hearing directly from him or his devotees, who speak on the basis of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So, Bhagavad Gita is one such bona fide scripture. And here Lord Krishna is talking about his opulence simply because unless we have an idea of the Lord's opulence, we will not understand his greatness. And unless we understand the greatness of the Lord, we will not be fixed in sincere devotional service. Unless we understand his greatness. Because one can easily take the Lord for being as good as an ordinary human being. Even sometimes it happens that when we interact too closely with our spiritual master, we get very over familiar with the spiritual master. And then we will find that we cannot derive the same amount of realizations from him than if there were to be a respectable distance with intensity of service. Does it make sense? Sometimes we can't derive because of over familiarity. So, we have to understand the greatness of the spiritual master and constantly be reminded that he is not an ordinary personality. And then it's easier then for us to derive from the spiritual master, spiritual knowledge and realizations. So similarly with the Lord, we have to know greatness of the Lord to be fixed in devotional service. That's why it is said that even these sages, even the demigods, they are not beyond this process. Though they are products of the mode of goodness, still they cannot understand the Lord, because the Lord can only be understood by hearing, Shravana. Now the next 4 verses are called as the Chatushloki, and they summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita. Very important. So these 4 verses are key memory verses, 100% for your exam, for the next exam, not for this exam, for the coming exam, but after that. Aham sarvasya prabho, buddha sarvam pravartite. Buddha bhava samavita. Now, these 4 shlokas are called as the Chatushloki and they summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita. Especially this verse, Aham sarvasya prabho, that verse number 8, it sums up the opulence of the Lord. So because this chapter is called as the opulence of the Absolute, so this is the pivotal verse here. So it sums up his opulence and explains the result of truly knowing his opulences. What happens when one understands his opulences in full? Then one becomes a pure devotee. So this is verse number 8. Text number 9 talks about how the pure devotees worship the Lord. Machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mamityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So it talks about how pure devotees worship the Lord. Text 10 and 11 talk about the pure devotee having worshipped the Lord. How does the Lord then reciprocate with the pure devotees? Tesham sratayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upanayati. Or the next verse, Tesham evanu kampartam aham agyana jam tamah nashayami atma bhavasto jnana dipena bhashvata. So these 4 verses are the Chatushloki of Bhagavad Gita. All of us must have these verses in our fingertips at all points in time. Especially being a Bhakti Sastri student, you will be expected to know these verses at all points in time. These are most often quoted verses also of the Bhagavad Gita. So, text 8, which talks about sums up the opulence of the Lord. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions that everything emanates from Lord Krishna. Therefore, he is called as Swayam Bhagavan. So, not only does so we see here clearly that the Lord is declaring himself. The Lord is declaring himself. In Bhagavatam it is mentioned Ishvara, Brahma Samhita it is mentioned Ishvara Parama Krishna. In Bhagavatam it is mentioned Ete Chamcha Kala Purusha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. But here the Lord is himself also saying that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a direct statement. So he is saying it about himself from where we can know. And we can also know it through the Vedic literature. We can understand the same thing. The Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So unless we know him as the cause of all causes, then it is very difficult otherwise for us to attain single-pointed devotion. So I was sharing in the Milpark program also. I am reading a book called as the Autobiography of a Yogi. It is actually a book which is talks about Kriya Yoga, and it talks about it borders on right now I have not got a full grip on it, but it borders on to some extent on Mayavad, to some extent on Brahmavad philosophy. There are there are statements which also takes hints of Paramatmavad philosophy. So everything is there in that. But one thing is starkly missing, which clearly tells me that it is not the correct philosophy. The Mayavadis say that Lord Krishna, the Mayavadis talk about the love of God. They also say love of God. They say love of God is higher than any mystic yoga. Till that point in time, everything is okay. Love of God is higher than mystic yoga. Mystic yoga is just a byproduct. It's a cheap byproduct. Okay? And it also says that this should not be demonstrated in public to get cheap adoration and respect in society. However, the basic fundamental flaw here, and it also talks about Guru Bhakti. It also says that a Guru is representative of God. Everything is there, proper, except one thing where everything fails. It calls Krishna as a prophet. And that's where everything fails. And that's where you thank Srila Prabhupada that we have access to Srimad Bhagavatam through Srila Prabhupada. That is why Lord Krishna actually cannot be understood if we don't study Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not possible to understand. In fact, in the Bhagavatam itself, we had one essay topic, I don't know in which canto, but it said the Mayavadis do not have access to Srimad Bhagavatam. There was no mention. In these Mayavadi books, they are glorifying. They are saying that everything should be understood as per Shruti, Smriti and Purana. But they are not talking about Bhagavad Purana at all. So, at the end of the day, the conclusion is that there is the supreme, absolute, all-pervasive truth. And then, that supreme truth comes in the form of various prophets. Call it Krishna or Rama. It dilutes the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore. And my mentor in Canada, Rupanuga Prabhu, this is another Rupanuga Prabhu. He was my mentor in my early stages of devotional life. He gave me a nice example, which I have shared before also, but I will share again. When a flight takes off from India and goes to Los Angeles, even a 1 degree difference in the path, even a 1 minute, when I say minute, not time, I am talking about minutes and seconds in degrees. Even a 1 minute difference in the air path, in the travel of the aircraft over such a long distance can mean, what is that, sin theta impact. It can mean that you land somewhere else, right? Your opposite side, instead of landing in San Francisco, you have landed in, this way. Instead of Los Angeles, you have landed in San Francisco, or you have landed in, somewhere up north in, what is that, Oregon. Somewhere Portland you have landed in. It can even a one small difference. Right? So everything is very same from the Mayavad philosophy, but then everything else is yet so different. So definitely they do not have access to Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka. They may be able to attain some bliss of Brahmananda, but not beyond that. And Prabhupada says that after experiencing that Anand, Brahmanand, for long time, then they will get bored and they will fall down from that position. And when they fall down, then they will engage in Samaritan philanthropic activities. Sorry.
Yukteswar Giri and they go to this Tapolo, that's maximum.
Correct. But from that Tapolo, if they are able to associate with Bhaktas, right? Then Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti navadete. At any point in time, anybody can be saved by association of a pure devotee. If they are able to get association of a devotee, then fine. For example, if they are able to get Lord Brahma's association. Lord Brahma is also mentioned there quite a few times. So if they are able to get Lord Brahma's association, then through that they can get guidance.
So we mentioned they also speak about love of Godhead. So means what they are loving, they want to love Brahman.
It's very difficult. I mean, it will take a separate class for me to explain. Of course, I'm going to complete the entire book, by which then I'll be able to explain exactly what is Mayavad philosophy. Because for a long time it has been within my heart. I really want to understand what is Mayavad philosophy and why Mayavad philosophy is so attractive yet disastrous in its consequences. It looks very attractive. When you read the book, you can't keep it down. That's exactly what, it's very similar to Journey Home. Journey Home book, and if you see this, it's as captivating as Journey Home, this book. Right? But still it is nowhere in that sense.
But I have stopped it off the way because I could not relish it.
Pardon?
I could stop it as I come into Krishna consciousness. I was ready to.
You are
but
ready.
I did not see any of the points that you expressed, but I rather see that book as mysticism everywhere, even the yogi, he himself has no guru sishya parampara. The link is not there. It just automatically happens. He got some mystic powers from childhood, and whatever he thinks that happens. Yeah. So there was no connectivity or no devotional service. Nothing is. No service to guru himself like that. So there is no connectivity being shown there.
So I haven't read the full book like you have done.
I did not actually. I stopped it halfway. I stopped.
No, he does have a guru. He meets Yukteswar.
That's what I also understood, that there is a lineage they talk about. But again, the point is that the moment you say Krishna is a prophet, then everything is finished there.
So that means they are saying.
Then you are not going anywhere. Then, no.
When he say prophet means he was in a.
Prophet means messenger of God. I also googled and then found out prophet means messenger of God.
So that implies
Lord Krishna was not messenger of God. That is why you have to understand this verse. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of which there is no doubt.
What is more interesting is Brahman Sevakananda has written explanation of Bhagavad Gita. God talks with Arjuna.
So he still says God. So that's why it's a bit confusing. Sometimes they say God. Sometimes suddenly they talk about Divine Mother. They talk about Kali. So it's very difficult. But I haven't read the entire book, so I wouldn't make any radical statements based on it. But then definitely this one statement is good enough for me to understand that there is something seriously wrong in the whole thing.
What is this book about? What is this book?
It's called Autobiography of a Yogi.
Would you recommend others reading?
No, I wouldn't recommend anyone reading. I'm telling you, I should also, in one sense, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash. Okay. The only reason I am reading it is because then what happens is I have found that I believe that it will help me in understanding where people come from when they come with these past affiliations. It will help me understand them better and then be able to rather than simply condemning, because sometimes what happens, we are used to just condemning something, no, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash, but why Sarvanash? Why? So little bit of understanding about that. So obviously we are not going to relish that literature. So it's more of knowing how sometimes you have to go into the on the other side and see what's going on there to better understand why things are the way that Prabhupada is telling us. It is just from that point of view that I am doing it. I am not recommending anyone does it. Nobody has asked me to do it also. So I am just doing it. I am taking some little bit of a risk over there. But I really wanted to know, because so many people have come in so many Bhakti Vriksha programs I have done. People have come and quoted this to me at various points in time, or shown some affiliations here and there, and I just thought that it makes sense now that I understand it, and then I can explain to all of you, so you don't have to read anything. Let me take that risk. You all don't have to take that risk. I will explain to you what is going on and then what are the anomalies there. So all of you, when you go out for preaching, then you know.
I think it's attractive because there is no restrictions, no conditions, no regulations.
There is regulation. There is lot of regulation there. There is regulation. They talk about, there is regulation, at least meat eating, slaughter, everything is condemned there. That's what I am saying. The difference is, everything goes the same, and suddenly when you say Lord Krishna is a prophet, it's not even a 1 degree change. It's a 180 degree change. Everything goes like this nicely. Everything else is same. Guru is as good as God. Guru Bhakti should be there. Regulative principles. Everything is there.
one more thing I noticed is they make Jesus Christ equal to Krishna. So they
Correct.
put, in fact, they put all the
Correct.
pictures. Jesus
Correct.
Christ.
Yes,
Krishna.
yeah. So that's where it goes seriously wrong somewhere. They
How
can.
do they interpret this verse?
Which one?
Like, I am the source of
I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Damodar Prabhu can. Because
I could not finish it.
you could not.
Once I commit, I was reading before
Yeah.
I become serious into Krishna
Yeah,
consciousness.
yeah.
Then I stopped it.
I also had one Mayavadi version. My uncle was reading. Thrilling is there. But when I asked what, then nobody is able to tell. Everywhere self is there. What self? So, thrilling. Sometimes, every. But the thing is that it is the book is and when I read that, I asked myself also, why is this book captivating? It's more captivating, as Prabhu pointed out, for the mystic effect that it has throughout. Suddenly you're thinking something and then the saint is appearing directly in front, like with Sastri Siddhi.
Siddhis are explained.
And then, oh my God, that's far out. Whereas in our ordinary day, this is where Govind Prabhu once said that sometimes a devotee may not experience paranormal phenomena. Okay, because it's like, for us it's like superannuation. It's not like a monthly salary. You may not see, but when the retirement, everything will come. Like that. So devotional life, you may be tested for us. It may not give, it may not give us the perception of paranormal phenomenon always. But we know for one thing, we actually see inside our heart, we know what we were and we know what we are now. Even physically, we see that devotee's face changes. I remember, in our Milpark program, especially Srinivas Prabhu. Srinivas Prabhu is one person who I noticed then and who I noticed now. I don't want to embarrass him, but I can see a difference. There is something I can see there. I'm sitting. And not only did I say it, his own relatives told it to him. Your appearance has changed, they said, after you became a devotee. So this is what happens. Now these are all mystic in one sense. And I don't want to embarrass anyone, but so many are here whose faces are very radiant. So this happens.
You can see the devotee. You can make him out.
Yeah. We can see a transcendentalist in a devotee. Anyway, so I didn't want to digress. Yeah. So the point is, so Lord is Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse is very instrumental in keeping devotees in Krishna consciousness. That we are completely aware that Lord Krishna is not a prophet. He is not Brahman who is come in contact with the three modes of material nature. So he is none of this. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the source of Brahman. Lord Krishna is not a product of Brahman. Lord Krishna is the source of Brahman. He is the source of everything in creation. Again we'll read. I am the source of all spiritual and material. That's why I specifically took this up. Because I knew I was going to come to this verse and I had no better way of explaining than going there and coming back and explaining this. So now I am also understanding this better. Why Lord Krishna had to come personally and tell this, and how the Mayavadis have distorted this completely.
Actually, Prabhupada says in the purport in Bhagavatam that even Shankaracharya himself didn't comment on Bhagavatam because he knew that it is not possible for Mayavadis to comment on Bhagavatam.
And Shankaracharya, if he would have commented in Bhagavatam, then he wouldn't have served Lord Krishna. Because Shankaracharya wanted to serve the Lord by preaching the atheistic philosophy. That was his service. So he did his service very nicely. He didn't do a mistake. He checked his ecstasies. His ecstasies would have been to glorify the Lord, but he checked it. That's what makes him great in that sense. If you see, a covered personalist. It's not easy for a devotee to not to cover his emotions for Lord Krishna. It's not easy.
Did that take away some people away from devotion?
Which one?
Shankaracharya's view.
It will take only those people away from devotion who are envious of the personality of God. Because towards the end, Adi Shankara himself said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Moramate. And I know of Vaishnavas, very exalted Vaishnavas, who have come from the Shankara lineage. The person who introduced me to Hare Krishna Mahamantra was tutored by Paramacharya Shankaracharya and then by Krishna Premi Swamigal who is a Vaishnava. And then through this personality, I came to know the Hare Krishna Mantra. He himself gave it to me many years back. Like that. So there are Vaishnavas who are there.
So Prabhuji, these Mayavadis, we talk a lot about them. Where do they exist in, let's say, Melbourne?
Nowhere.
In Melbourne.
A real Mayavadi is also very difficult to find.
So
today, Murali Prabhu, that day we were sitting in Gauranga, no? You remember? Murali Prabhu and I were talking. Murali Prabhu made a very excellent point. He said, I don't know why again and again we are talking so much emphasis on Mayavadis. Today's problem is not Mayavad actually. If the problem were Mayavad also, no, even then society would have been much more peaceful. Today's problem is not Mayavadi. Today's problem is people of sense gratification and atheists completely. In one sense, Mayavadi is also a type of atheism because it denies the personality of God. But today, atheism was on a different platform.
So why are you spending so much time discussing about
In Mayavad, this was Murali Prabhu's question, that we should not, his viewpoint was that we should not be spending too much time discussing Mayavad. But at the same time, we have to understand that ISKCON is a huge institution now. And ISKCON is up against so many upper sampradayas. If we have to deliver the world, then we have to cut through all types of ignorance. So to cut through an ignorance, we have to have an understanding of the genesis of that ignorance and the philosophy which keeps people bound in their ignorance. So then we can go and cut that philosophy systematically and then bring them out of their ignorance. So therefore we need to have some understanding of these upper sampradayas. As a preacher we need to understand. As a Bhajananandi saint you don't need to do anything. Just chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. But because of our love for Prabhupada, we want to go out and make as many devotees as possible. So for doing that, for becoming effective in that particular job, then to that extent, if there is no harm in knowing certain things. As long as we don't do it too much, and then we have to know where to stop. Otherwise it's like a kabaddi match. We will go to the opposite camp and then we will get dragged there. Oh, this philosophy is very nice. It's like that. So therefore, obviously there is a discretion we have to exercise.
There is a lot of Mayavadis are in India. Because we are in Australia, we don't find them. Prabhupada has mentioned the Mayavadi because we have to distract Mayavadi. We have to tell him we don't go near them. There is so many of them.
In India there are a lot of Mayavadis.
No, over here there is nobody.
Can you just reflect also what is in Mayavadi philosophy, what happens to the false ego? And also is there an aspect of surrender as well?
Okay. So as much I have read in this book, okay, the mood is that the supreme divine being is the maintainer. Okay. Now you have to make your own conclusions. Okay. Which means what is surrender? Anukulesa sankalpa, pratikulesa varjana. Do whatever is favorable and reject whatever is unfavorable. They talk about 4 regulative principles. Okay. They talk about animals should not be killed. In fact, this whole book has one section on Jagdish Chandra Bose. There is a conversation of Jagdish Chandra Bose. How Jagdish Chandra Bose, he was one of the greatest scientists the world has known. Even your Bose speakers and all named, you can imagine. No? So Jagdish Chandra Bose was not only a physicist, but he was a botanist also. He was expert in 2 different branches of science, like that. So it talks about he having developed an instrument which clearly talks about the behavior of flowers when given a stimuli from outside, that the flowers are responding to a pain. Even when a flower is touched by a metal rod, the flower exhibits a different kind of behavior. It's like that. So the conclusion is that one should, even when we pluck a flower, we are doing himsa. So definitely there is that component of pratikulesa varjana. There is a component of ahimsa comes in. Everything is there. Maintaining goptritve varnam tatha rakshi sitisa vishwaso. Both are reiterated in the book. That at the end of the day he is the protector. I am currently reading the section where these 2 people, the author of this book, is traveling in a train and the brother has told them that I will not give you any money for your train travel. You always say that the divine providence, divine being is your protector and he will provide for you. You go. And they said, okay, we are going. So they don't have any money with them. And the exercise is given that they should go to Vrindavan all the way and then come back to Agra by 12 o'clock without even opening their mouth and asking anyone for food, shelter, transport, nothing. And then these two people go. They said, yes, we have full faith that providence will provide. And then they go, and at every point in time, then the whole thing is that how somebody comes and provides food, etc., etc. But so if you see now, there is surrender, but the moment you say Krishna is the prophet, then how does that sound? Does it make sense? Okay. Even if the Lord has, it's very clear that the Lord has provided for the faith, but the faith is there, but the faith is still not there in one sense. It's very difficult to explain this. That's why it's very, very difficult to explain this mood. That means they are believing in providence, but they don't want to believe that this person is the personality of Godhead.
So that means
they think that Brahman is, will take care, the Nirakar will take care.
So they don't believe in the existence of a spiritual world where there are different tastes and rasas.
No, there is no mention of the Golok, Vrindavan or Vaikuntha. No mention. No mention. That is why Prabhupada says that the maximum they can go, they will cross the Viraja river, they will enter Brahman. They will not be in the material world, but they will not enter the spiritual world also fully. They will be in the outskirts of the spiritual world, and then they will fall back.
They are all Shiva Bhaktas, no? Mayavadis are Shiva Bhaktas.
The concept itself is very different again. The concept of Shiva and Kali is also differently mentioned. There. A Shiva Bhakta, today we have a good understanding as Vaishnavas of what is Shiva Bhakti. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. We worship Lord Shiva so that we may become a Vaishnava like him. But that is not their concept. They have a very different concept of that.
Some sampradaya, some people have a name, go up to name. They don't go up to name even. They don't have a name of God. But like the Sikhism, they have a name.
Yeah.
But they don't have a Sabru. So, that's but they are all going to Brahma.
But they were predominantly existing during Ramanujacharya time and Madhvacharya time, isn't it? No? Nowadays, it's all Kali Yuga.
Nowadays there is nobody.
All shopping mall list. It's like Mayavadis.
The problem is much simpler nowadays.
It's probably easier to surrender to a ball of gas. That gives you bliss rather.
One more interesting thing you might find is at times Paramahansa Yogananda actually sees in his meditation dhyana Krishna and Jesus Christ like that. He tells he sees them.
It's very difficult to understand. He tells he sees them. We believe. We don't know. But we clearly know the moment Krishna is considered a prophet, then Lord Krishna has clearly said, what is the verse we saw? Avajananti mam moda. There are so many places that fools deride me, thinking me to be an ordinary person. Now how clearly Lord Krishna has given that in the Bhagavad Gita, and yet people do that, which means, what do you understand out of that? So the whole idea is, okay, just read it with dispassionately, just for understanding and being able to save people who fall trapped to apasampradayik teachings. So that's very important to understand this verse. So when we see this, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me, he says. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service. See the beauty of Lord Krishna's words. He says the wise who perfectly know this. There is a knowledge, but it's not perfect. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan is the knowledge is only up to Brahman. Perfection will come only when we understand Krishna as Sampurna Bhagavan. Swayam Bhagavan. That is a perfect. So only when people do that will they engage in my devotional service. Otherwise they will engage in the devotional service of so many people. They may engage in devotional service of Kali, for example, which is what I am seeing predominantly over there. So they will engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Aham, mattaha. They are all referring, Lord Krishna is referring to himself at all points in time. Then how these people are distorting that? That is very peculiar.
So previous classes.
Sorry. Which means they are still in the modes of material nature. They are influenced by the mode of material nature. Yes, okay, so maximum they go near.
It's very difficult for me to comment on this actually. That's why let me read unless I read I will not be able to comment on this. See, we never know in this material world. For example, it may be the Lord's plan to send some people.
Confused. Most of them.
Correct. Correct. So even it's like Lord is complete. So he will send saints also, but he is the one who will send suboptimal philosophies also. He will only introduce in this world, just to keep everyone happy. Because if this is what you want, then may you be happy in following this. May you be happy following this. And for those devotees, may you come to me. It's like that. So we don't know who they are. That's where it's very difficult. See, if you see Journey Home, if you study Radhanath Swami Maharaj's book, one thing which will come out very clearly in that entire book, that he has never condemned anyone. He has, in fact, if you read that book, you will see that he has always been thankful for those people who are assisting him in his journey home. Never he has written a derogatory statement anywhere about that, I knew these people were rascals, that I should not stay here, I should move on from here. No, never, he has not written like that. So there is a different understanding, and that's exactly what I am trying to understand, that how has he been able to write that book without being derogatory, which means there is some understanding which is higher than what at least I have understood in this regard. Can we not deride and still be fixed on the absolute understanding that Srila Prabhupada has given us? Prabhupada is heavy on the Mayavadis, but Prabhupada had a mission to fulfill at that point in time. He really wanted to go to the West, and he had less time in his hands, and he had to smash to give. You can imagine, at 70, what age? Srila Prabhupada, 1970s, 81 Prabhupada left his body. So how much time, and 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so many books, so many temples Srila Prabhupada had to do, so much of travel across the globe. So you can imagine his schedule. So he really could not, he had to smash all those things too. He said, okay, don't worry about this philosophy, don't worry about that philosophy, all this, okay, just focus on Krishna, Supreme Personality of God. So he gave us that focus. He didn't have much time. So he had to really smash anything that will slightly even deviate us from there. So Srila Prabhupada clearly accomplished whatever his spiritual master wanted him to accomplish, in terms of giving us single-pointed focus on Lord Krishna, and not only that, but single-pointed focus as chanting the holy names as the process of attaining Lord Krishna. The Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana, Prabhupada really gave us that clarity, complete clarity. Correct? So he saved us in one sense. But now his disciples are also assisting us in getting a perspective on these things, on helping us understand Srila Prabhupada's mood at a different level. So when I read Journey Home, I got an understanding that no, he has never condemned anyone over here. Because in the Bhagavatam also, actually in one verse it is mentioned that the Mayavadis are also transcendentalists. It is mentioned, and I was surprised when I read that in the Bhagavatam. You remember that verse? Yes. The Mayavadis are also, Prabhupada himself writes, Mayavadis are also transcendentalists. Because at the end of the day, there is at least that credit we have to give them, that they are outside the bodily concept of life. At least they are not supporting the philosophy of working like dogs and hogs and coming back again and again into this material world. At least they are talking about liberation. Muktivadis, if you like. There is some transcendence involved there. But we only, at this point in time, again the way that, what I understood after reading Journey Home was that we don't follow them. But at the same time, we just understand that yes, they are working towards a suboptimal goal, which may not be, which is subject to risk. First of all, it's very difficult in Kali Yuga to practice that, the processes which they talk. Secondly, there is too much dependence on our own abilities to do the process of yoga perfectly, to be able to achieve. That is definitely I saw in the book. Too much emphasis there on perfection, perfectly doing that, to attain that anubhava by sitting and practicing that full day. Whereas for us, what do we do? Susukam kartum abhyayam. Our process is mercy driven, not merit driven process. Krishna Consciousness. I remember one quotation with Radhanath Swami Maharaj is given. He says Bhakti is awarded. Like that. as a result of service. And we will see that in this such a beautiful Chatushlok. I wish I could have more time to complete this today, but unfortunately we can't. But it is written down the line that a devotee need not worry about getting those kind of perfections at all. Simply if a devotee continues to serve, then by mercy, then it will be awarded to a devotee. So devotee need not worry about complex yogic processes. Devotee doesn't have to do anything. It's purely a movement of love that Prabhupada has taught us. Initially love by following rules and regulations. So we at least come to a regulated platform, because without coming to a regulated platform, without understanding the opulence of the Absolute, we will not be able to develop respect. Without then that respect and the reverence, we cannot launch ourselves to the platform of love thereafter. That is very. But whatever we do out of love, the Lord is acknowledging. Even now, whatever love, even if we are doing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, Lord still will accept whatever that we are doing out of love for Him. And then He will award us that. And again, we are under the shelter not only of Lord Krishna, we are under the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, who are distributing that freely for us. They have come to give Krishna Prem, which otherwise when I read this book, everyone is struggling so much to attain that Prem, that love of God, or whatever, love of Brahman if you like, the impersonal Absolute. But for us, we are directly given an opportunity to love the personality of God with much lesser effort and tapasya. It's an easy process. Chanting and eating prasada.
I think that's because
hearing.
of government eyes.
Because of we are in a very special moment. So when I read that, I am feeling very special suddenly. I am feeling that, oh, thank God. It's made so easy for us. Everything is so easy. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada.
Elsewhere in lecture I also heard that in Bhagavad Gita, Mayavadis can only access up to 6 chapters.
Pardon?
Mayavadis, they cannot access into big beliefs and people, they cannot access. Even if the message is there, they may translate but they don't get the message.
Yeah.
It's there in lecture from
Yes. Has Srila Prabhupada written anywhere about Brahmavadis anywhere in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam? Because the distinction is getting lesser and lesser. Previously we discussed.
Just hold on for some time. Let me finish and then I will explain. That's why I am also trying to understand.
4.11 actually, yatamam prapadyante tam tadal. There is a description of Brahmavadi.
Yeah, so at a superficial level, yes, we all understand that Brahmavadi are those people who are more attached to the impersonal Brahman aspect of Bhagavan. Okay. But Mayavadis are also attached to the impersonal conception of God. So there is a very thin line which separates. But right now my understanding is, the moment you say, I am God, you are God, everybody is God, okay, then that is Mayavad philosophy. The moment you are saying that yes, the impersonal aspect of the personal is more attractive to me, then you are a genuine Brahmavadi.
But both of them are on the journey of self-discovery. They don't know. So
not the Mayavadis. The moment you say I am God, you are God, everybody is God, then there is no philosophy at all.
So
then there is a completely wrong track.
So Brahmavadi doesn't make any assumption, while a Mayavadi has falsely concluded that we are God.
Correct. That is why Mayavadi Bhashya Shundle Saya Sarvana. Because then you will start thinking that I am also equal to him. And there is no question of attaining anything.
Brahmavadi won't say that Krishna is God.
Brahmavadi won't say that
Krishna is God.
Brahmavadi, will not say. True Brahmavadi will not say Krishna is a prophet.
He may not know if Krishna is a
And
prophet
they
or
don't
not.
also accept us.
I don't see. I have read Ramana Maharishi's book many years back, so I have to go back because my understanding that he is a genuine Brahmavadi. But I have to read it again to see between the lines, because that time I had not read Prabhupada's books.
He's a Brahmavadi by choice, but still Brahmavadi is one certain stage that you achieve understanding Brahman, and then you go understand Paramatma. So that means we have only come to the first level of understanding Brahman. You don't know, you're keeping your options open, you've not concluded anything.
Correct.
More or less that.
Correct.
Probably I think Paramahansa, in their lineage, there is no concept of Bhagavatam or anything. The maximum is only Bhagavad Gita, that's all.
Correct. There is no word of correct. That's why Prabhupada writes Mayavadis don't have access to Srimad. We had an essay topic on that. We will stop here and we will resume in the new year now.
So all your contact about
Please remember where we ended. Maybe we will start with the Chatushloki. But in the new year I propose to go a bit fast. We want to complete the course. So we will not, I was telling someone before this class, Vajaba Prabhu, that I will do at least, minimum we will do 10 verses in each class. Minimum, that is. But I'm looking at around covering 15 to 20 verses also. That may not be impossible.
20 verses in the beginning.
Pardon?
You were doing 20 verses.
Yeah, 20 verses. So I intend to go back to that, but that will involve a lot of reading from your side. I know that Madhavanand Prabhu's group is studying, meeting regularly and studying even before coming to the class. So I request, I'm not saying other group leaders are not doing that. There may be some of you who are doing that, but if any group leader is not doing that, please ensure that this is the only one opportunity we have in our lifetime to study Bhagavad Gita. Let's make the full use of it. If we postpone now, then when? That's the question. Ask yourself, when? Never. It will never come. That time will never come. If not now, time will never come after this. So take this opportunity. We have a nice vacation period now. So just go through whatever we have studied. That will help you not only in your sadhana but in your preaching also. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.